Hey Alice fam, welcome to my YouTube channel where I talk about sewing, fashion, and lifestyle. Let's get into today's topic, which is I took a tufting class with my husband. If you are unfamiliar with what tufting is, I'm not an expert, but basically it's rug making. And it was really cool. I seen, the viral TikTok videos where they are super hype about making their rugs or their custom rugs. And I am in Columbus, Ohio, and I was looking for a class like that. I'm like, oh, this looks dope. I want to learn how to do this. Not that I have time to learn anything else, but here we are. So I started searching, and we don't have anything like that in Columbus. So I continued to search, and I found there is a class at an art center about an hour away from where we stay. So it was in back of my mind, like, I want to take this class. Let me find a reason to take the class. It was expensive, not that expensive, but kind of more than I thought I was going to pay. But at the end of the day, you're walking away with a custom rug. So I'm like, okay, yes, let's do it. So we decided to do this on our anniversary weekend. It really just worked out that one, they had a class that weekend because they don't have classes year round because they do like summer camps or something there. Um, Second, there was two spots left. And I was like, oh, well, this is perfect. They have two classes, two spots left in the class on our anniversary weekend. Let's make it a thing. So let's talk about the class. In preparation for the class, we had to send the teacher, I think her name was Mary, we had to send the teacher like what we wanted to do. Mind you, I'm like, I don't even know what kind of rug. I want to do something cute. I want to do something artistic. I'm struggling to figure it out. But we had to send it at least 3 days before the class. So me and my husband did some searching and we found what we wanted to do. My husband decided he was going to make the cover of an Outcast CD. That turned out to be very difficult, but you'll see that later. I decided that I was going to do this original tattoo from this girl I follow on Instagram. I actually love her work. I don't know if I'm saying it right. I think it's El African. I'll put the description in the link somewhere. But yeah, I was really, really excited. I really want to get the tattoo. It's an expensive tattoo. It's like $400, but the price is the price. So I get you, sis. I'm gonna get my coins together, and eventually I'm gonna get to Philly to get the tattoo. But until then, I'm like, this would be cool to do this artistic picture that I really like on a rug. So I sent that in, and then we waited until our class started. I booked it about 2 weeks ahead of time. So just in case you're interested, I booked it about 2 weeks early, and then we prepared for the class. We got up, had breakfast, and then drove up for the class. It was in Mansfield, Ohio, and we decided that we didn't want to stay the night because it's really close to home. So we decided that we were going to go have some dinner, hang out there for a bit, and then head home. The class is 2 days long. Technically, the class is from not 2 days long, it's on 2 days. The first class is from 1 to 4:30, or both classes are from 1 to 4:30 on Saturday and on Sunday. So we got there at about 1 o'clock on Saturday to start the class. All right, so let's get into the class. So we walked in, we were like a little bit late, but we got there relatively fashionably late, so only a couple minutes. Um, so to start the class off, what we walked into, first off, they have a bunch of different classes here, so something to consider in the future. They had like a wine glass making class. So these old ladies, they were so cute, had a bunch of wine bottles and they were making wine glass. So as soon as I walked in the door, sis was like, "Hey, you want some wine?" And I'm like, "Absolutely, I'll take some wine." So I had a glass of wine offered to me as soon as I walked in the door. I'm sure that's not the norm. But we walked in, there wasn't an introduction. There wasn't any this is the spiel. It was like, all right, let's get into it. This is where we start. Our stations were already set up, and I'll put in some pictures and images so that you all can see it. Um, they had our illustrations that we had sent to them blown up on a canvas, and the canvases were stretched on a frame, and the tufting guns were there, and we were basically ready to start. So as soon as we walked in, we met our teacher. There was two other individuals in the class. So it was a class of 4 to 1 teacher. It was a pretty good ratio. Um, so we sat down with Mary and she showed us how to thread the Tufting gun. I don't know if there is different versions of a Tufting gun, but I feel like there probably are more expensive versions that have more abilities than these guns, but who knows? I don't know. I didn't do the research. I just used what was given to me. So she showed us how to thread them. And you have to use like a wire and push it through and then put your yarn in and pull the yarn through, kind of like you would do like a loop turner type situation. So that was cool, except for the fact that it was really easy to pull the yarns out. So you had to be careful that you're not running out of yarn or that your yarn's not tight. So my husband had a lot of issues with getting his yarn to stay inside of his gun. So he spent a ton of time rethreading and rethreading and rethreading his gun. I'm like, there has to be some type of tufting gun out there where the yarn can't so easily be pulled out. I don't know. We'll see. But once you got the hang of it, it was pretty easy. You have to make sure that you really put pressure on the gun into the canvas to get the darts to stay in. It took me about 10 minutes before I realized we were actually working from the back of the canvas, not the front of the canvas. So we were seeing the reverse of everything, which was, once you kind of wrapped your head around it, then you could walk around to the other side of your canvas, kind of get an idea how your work was going. One thing I've learned and cautioned is my husband um, artwork had block letters and it had cursive letters. Very, very difficult for a beginner. So I wouldn't suggest that. I wouldn't suggest anything like that if you're going to do it for the first time. Mine was just line work, so it was just easy to put the lines in and then fill in, and then I kind of did a black and white background to help bring it out because I thought it was going to be really dark. It didn't come out specifically the way I wanted it to, but it was my first time. I might do it again for sure. So once you kind of did the toughing, we had a 30 by 30-inch canvas. We were there from like 1:30 to 4:30 and we did not finish filling in the canvas. I don't know if we were supposed to or not, but we actually stayed late. Me and my husband. The teacher was really, really nice. She stayed with us till about 5:30 because he was really struggling to get going because of how his artwork looked. So she stayed with us about 5:30, and then we left and we went to dinner at a winery that was local, and then we went home. So on day two, I pretty much had my center image of my canvas done, but I still had to do my whole background. I made it like a square. So I still had to do my background. The guy across from me, he did a ghost. It was pretty really good for a first fit. First fit work. A first attempt. It was like it had like a little blending action, like a little fading out. It was so good. I should have picked something a little simpler. My husband definitely should have picked something a little similar. His wife did something like a blob, like of colors mixed together. It was really pretty too. So once you got your artwork filled, and then once you got your like framing or any type of framing filled, it was time to move on to the next step, which was we put rug glue on the back of the canvas. The rug glue is so sticky. Oh my gosh. And I don't know what the process is typically, but like the lady just gave us a bucket of glue and she gave us like a piece of cardboard and she's like, here, use the cardboard as a spatula to put it on there. But the cardboard is like wavy and it's not very stiff. And I was getting it all on my nails and my hands and I was dropping it on the floor. I'm like, yeah, I don't know if I'm good at this. But then one container she gave me um was mostly almost empty. So then she gave me another one, but inside of that one there was like a scraper or something in there. So I used that and it went a little bit quicker. So once you got the whole back covered in glue and about an inch around, we used a heat gun to like warm it up still a little bit so that it wasn't wet. You had to wait for it was kind of tacky, and there'd be some pictures and images and stuff for you to see. I'm gonna post in here, but once you got your glue on the back of your yarns, you let it dry with the heat gun, and then you had to cut your canvas out the frame. So once you cut it out the frame, we took it to the table, and I think I do have a video of this, so I'll try to put it in there so that you guys can see this. But that little extra is like the square. I did a square rug. So you put the glue like about an inch over past where your yarns were. You kind of add slits so that you can contour that leftover canvas and slide it onto the back where the glue is. So you want to like slowly fold the pieces in so that they are touching the glue and you have a semi clean edge around your canvas. Once you did that, we covered it with some felt. So you put the felt onto the red glue and there was like a roller. You can roll it so that it kind of adheres to the red glue where it was tacky. But of course, like the edges that you folded over don't necessarily have a ton of glue on them. So we went through with the hot glue gun and glued, the felt towards the edges and the corners of our canvas. And then I decided that I wanted to hang my rug. I don't know if I'm actually going to hang it now, but the plan was to hang it. I put like a loop in my felt in the back so you can put like a dowel rod through it so that you can hang it up. So once you got to that part, you're pretty much finished outside of you have to shave it. So I started to shave my canvas, and I felt like I was shaving forever. Like I was giving sis a edge up, and her brows waxed, and her upper lip waxed. Like it was a lot of shaving. And in the shaving process, I learned that I had a spot that was kind of thin, and when I was filling in my spots, I asked her because when you're just tufting up rows, like if you just do like a row like every half an inch, on your side it looks empty, but on the other side of the canvas it looks really full. So I was like, I don't want to put too much because on one side it was looking kind of crazy where I put a lot of fibers, and she was like, no, you want to make sure it's filled in because you don't want it to like be thin. I'm like, okay. So there actually ended up being one spot on my canvas where it was kind of bald, like it was a little spot there that didn't get a lot of threads. So I was talking to the lady, like I was gonna leave it. I wasn't all that concerned about it. And the lady was like, "Oh, why don't you just put a little bit of red glue on it? Or no, she wants you to put a little bit of hot glue on it and take some of the fibers that you were shaving off and put it on there so that it'll kind of fill it in." I'm like, "Okay, that sounds like a great idea." I did that. I smashed the fibers on top of it. Now there's like a hard hot glue, a hard discolored section on my rug. And I'm like, oh, this didn't really turn out that great. So I'm like, this is kind of hard. It's not really the same color black because this like the rest of it was cut and this was like already fibers cut. It just didn't look that great. But I'm like, I did it, whatever, I don't care. I already took a picture of it before I did that part. So I was like, I got a picture, that's all that matters. Well, she was like, well, why don't you just do the rug glue? Put the rug glue on top. And, it dries pretty quickly. And you can throw some fibers on there and it might look better and it'd be a little bit softer. I'm like, okay, let's try that. Well, with the rug glue, you use the heat gun. So in my head, I put the rug glue on, just a little dab. I tried to put bigger, like regular pieces of yarn instead of the frayed little pieces. I put regular pieces of yarn on there, like, oh, kind of like you be seeing the people who be making the wigs for the dudes. They just put the weave hair on, then they start shaving it. Like maybe that'll happen. So I put the big pieces on there, but it wasn't sticking because the rug glue was still very wet. So I took the heat gun and started to try to like dry the glue a little bit. The heat gun burnt a bigger hole in my rug because it started to burn the fibers. My husband over there struggling with his rug, struggling, was like, that's what you get for chasing perfection. I'm like, forget you. I was just trying to make it look nice. But here we are. Now I have a bigger hole. So I ended up putting more rug glue, letting it dry naturally, taking more fibers and putting it onto the part and hoping that it dried nicely. It still ended up being like a little spot that's visible. But I'm like, I don't know exactly what I'm going to do with this piece of art. We're going to see. I'll put some pictures in here so you can decide. I don't know if I want to hang it up at home or if I actually want to put it on the floor. I am in my studio today recording. So I don't know if I want to hang it up here. It goes with the aesthetic, which is what the plan was, but I don't know. It didn't really come out the way I wanted to. The picture that I based my rug on is a linear picture that doesn't have a background. It's just white. I didn't want a white rug, so I used brown yarn and I used black yarn. I didn't really want to use white in it because I didn't want a white rug originally. So my image is like a mix up of two faces. It's like a mask. And I didn't use white for the eyes because the image is like a linear thing. It didn't have like a background or foreground to be like white eyes or brown eyes or whatever. So I used the brown and black as I mentioned, but I was trying to find different ways to make it pop out. So I eventually did use the white to outline it, and then I did like a black and white stripe in the background. So I was hoping it would make it pop out more. It's still a very dark canvas, so I don't know if I'm going to hang it up at home or not, or put it in my studio, which is one of those things I was thinking about originally because it kind of fits my aesthetic here. I'm in my studio today, um, but yeah, I don't know how I don't know what I'm gonna do with it. If you guys have any thoughts of ideas, leave me a comment below and I will respond. So my husband really struggled with his, and they told us to put pressure on the canvas, like push the gun in there. I don't know if maybe he pushed too hard or what exactly happened, but he ripped holes in his canvas in more than one spot. And then at one point, he saved the middle for last, and we were pushing so hard I came to help him because he was a little bit behind. We were pushing so hard that it caused a rip right through the center of the canvas. So that made it very difficult when we were like trying to do it. But we were told that you can fix the patches. I mean, you can patch the holes. It's not a big deal, and they happen all the time. So you can just knit or tuft a section of a color and pop it in where it needs to go. Put the red glue on the back. Use the heat gun to set it, and then you should be fine to go to continue with the rest of the steps. But it took us a little bit longer because he had so many patches and he had big patches. So we finally got around to it. It is not perfect by any means, but we did learn how to do something new. We really enjoyed it. We got to spend some quality time with each other without the kids, without actually going too far or like spending a ton of money. So it was nice thing to do if you ever consider taking a Tufting class. This is your sign to do it. I had a lot of fun doing it. I don't know if this is an activity I'm going to pick up myself because I'm doing a lot all the time. I don't know if I have time to pick up a new project, but would I be interested in going to other classes where everything is set up and I just come in and just spend an hour or two just tufting away? Absolutely. I wish there were more here. I wish they were a little bit cheaper so it wouldn't have to be a thing. It could be like an activity. But this is definitely something I would probably go back and do with my friends. I kind of want to tell my sorority sisters to see if they want to do it. It was actually really fun. It was really quiet. We were in mixed company. So we were like, I don't know if we can turn on music. Like, what do you think? So my husband eventually did turn on some music and everybody was cool with it. So we had some music going. I told y'all they offered me a glass of wine. I'm doing Adipics right now, so I was like, I can't want to drink too much of this wine. So I had a couple little sips, and I gave the rest to my husband, and I had my water. But it was such a good time. I really enjoyed it. Like I'm so glad that we finally decided to do it. But stay tuned for future videos. I thank you so much for following me along this tufting journey. Hit the bell so you'll get notifications whenever I post anything new, and subscribe if you aren't already. But thank you guys so much, and I'll see y'all on the next one. Bye.